Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome everyone to Morris Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amana El Bay. And tonight we'll be dealing with part 2, Tarhaka and Dr. Walter Williams on From Pharaoh to Negro. Our special guest will be Dr. Walter Williams and company. And the number to dial into this broadcast is 319-527-6084. Press 1 on your phone. That'll give me an indication that you have something to say. Tonight is going to be very, very special. We're going to be dealing with the following questions. Number one, who gave the descendants of the ancient Moors/Egyptians the label African Americans? And was that label harmful to them? Number two, has this type of label caused a problem for the ancient Moors/Egyptians in America? And who are black people? Well, I mean, who is that? What is that? Why did the descendants of the ancient Egyptians, Moors, allow the labels Negro, colored, and black, etc., to be placed upon them? And can they sue the United States of America Incorporated, in all capital letters? Can they sue them for that? Number four, what is the solution to this type of problem in America? And where is black land? If all people on earth have a nationality and all nationalities associated with a landmass, where is black land? What is this business? What's going on? These are just a few of the questions that we're going to deal with here tonight. My guests haven't arrived just of yet, and we do see our callers with their hands raised in the queue. We're going to get to you. We will be opening up the phone lines, and when we do, you get a chance to speak with Dr. Williams. If you got questions, you can ask your questions. The chat room is wide open. Don't hesitate to get in there and state your business. Please be courteous to everyone in the chat room. Okay? Now, we will be dealing with excerpts from the article from Pharaoh to Negro, written by Dr. Walter Williams. We'll be dealing with that tonight. We also have his books on hand. We'll probably be dealing with some of that tonight. And we'll have other guests that have actually been to Egypt. So we want to, for them to give us the information that we would need to find out what life is like in Egypt. I mean, what is it like? But right now we're going to go to the commercials, and when we come back, we'll be ready to go in. Okay? So y'all hold your hat for a minute. We'll be right back.
For Tarhaka's free report, go to tarhakadebtelimination.org. Put in your email address, and he will rush your free report to your email box. Learn about what's going on in America. Learn about big tobacco and what's in it for you. Go to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. I'm Chantel. Thanks.
Hey everybody, this is Tarhaka again. I would like to introduce you to the Great Debate. We now have copies of the Great Debate. Dr. Walter Williams debates Prince Ezio ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. Also, Reverend Henry Hardy of one of the most prominent churches in Chicago, Illinois. Chester Blair, a major attorney in Chicago. And Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. The whole thing is hosted by W.L. Lillard. Dr. Walter Williams debate these men on their belief versus what he knows for a fact and he can prove. Get your copy by going to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org, or you can go to newdataelimination.com. newdataelimination.com. Contact me for your copies. Okay? The Great Debate. You got any questions, just give me a shout. Peace.
Hi everyone, I'm Chantel, and the time for becoming a secured party and creditor is now. To do it right, go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka, learn how to be a creditor, learn how to live in the private, find out what private banking is all about, learn about being in your proper status in commerce, learn what a national and diplomat is all about. www.newdebtelimination.org.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines here. But before I do, I'm going to come with an excerpt from Dr. Walter Williams' book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. And in the introduction on page 15, he states the following. Brother Malcolm X said it best. Just because Europeans are the dominant race does not mean they are superior, but means that they are the most brutal and will stop at nothing to maintain the status quo. With the same pen that demoted the creators of civilization, the nomadic, barbaric people of Europe used the same pen to elevate themselves to royal status and stole credit for most of the collective knowledge of the world. Never mind the principles of government, science, mathematics, and economics that had been established thousands of years before the first Europeans came on the scene of history. Never mind the Europeans migrated into the land areas known today as Egypt and absorbed the ancient Egyptian culture and its high civilization already in place. With a brutal military force and an uncanny ability to deceive, lie, and trick, the impostors of civilization were able to make that which was good bad and that which was bad become good. The reverse psychology process is now commonplace, complete. It is important to know that Christianity and the religion in general is by nature. It is also important to note that religion embodies a preset value system, and it is the engagement of this value system that we see on two levels, political and esoteric. Christianity and other religions are the instruments of political and social control. They are the mechanism by which Western governments exercise direct and indirect control over their populations. This is the basic political level. On the other hand, the esoteric level holds a special problem for those persons who are of African origin. For it is these people who embrace religion wholeheartedly. When you adopt a God who is not in your own image, when you embrace literature that teaches you to hate yourself and love your enemy, when your oppressor and savior and your God and enslaver are one and the same, you become the principal agent in your own destruction. Your spiritual and physical death are a foregone conclusion. God on earth is the illusion of white supremacy, because white supremacy is ultimately the embodiment of the European as God in the form of incarnate logo Christ. Now that's very, very powerful, and we're going to stop right there on there, and I'm going to go over here to the phone lines and open them up, and my guest will be coming in shortly, okay? I'm going to start with area code 763. You are on the air. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, what's your question or comment.
Yes. My name is Hazard Gustav Gleskill and Etheria. I'm calling from North Carolina. And
okay, my brother.
Yes. Started for
welcome. Hold on. Let me go down and open up the other phone lines, okay?
Okay then.
Area code 415. 415. You are on the air.
Oh, this is Emma McGowan.
Okay, Emma, welcome. I'm waiting on my brother, Dr. Walter Williams, to come in here. And how are you today? And where's your?
I'm good.
Where's the other sister?
Where's Pharaoh? I called her and I didn't get her, and I should have called her yesterday to remind her.
Okay. All right. Well, sit tight. Y'all sit tight, and I'll be getting back with you. We're gonna open up the line for area code 773. So y'all hold on a minute. Area code 773. You are on the air.
Walter Williams.
Welcome, Dr. Williams. Welcome to part 2. From Pharaoh to Negro. Me and you going at it tonight. Me and you and our sister Emma McGowan here, and the brother from South Carolina is here, and we're waiting on the other sister to press one on her phone, and that'll give me an indication that she got something to say. I see numbers are here, but I don't have an indication that he's here. But for the new people that are here, I'm going to need you to give us a little a breakdown on who you are and how you came to be involved in this. And I also want you to shed some more light on that great debate, man, if you could, because this is incredible, man. I keep looking at it over and over and over, and this is the most amazing thing that I've ever seen in my life. And these brothers that you were debating, they had a hard time dealing with the difference between having the facts and what they believe in.
That's correct.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You want to shed a little light on that before we move forward?
Yeah. Well, what you're talking about happened 27 years ago in Chicago at a local television station. The host of that show, W.L. Lillard, tried to set me up, which I didn't know he was trying to do that at the time until it happened when I got into the studio. So he had waiting for me a black Hebrew Israelite, a follower of Ben Ami, that group that went from Chicago to Dimona, Israel. And he was part of that group and one of the main leaders in that organization. And he was one of my debaters. And there's a Christian minister, Reverend Henry Hardy, who pastored a large church here in Chicago. He was my second debater. And then we had Munir Muhammad from the Nation of Islam. He was my third debater. And then they had a lawyer by the name of Chester L. Blair, because at the time, we're talking about 1994, 3, 27 years ago. At the time, I was saying that we Africans born in the United States of America are not citizens of the United States of America due to the Constitution that was drawn up in 1787. So by him being a lawyer who took the pledge to defend the Constitution, he was on to debate me against what I'm saying about us Africans born in the United States of America are not citizens of the United States of America due to the Constitution drawn up in 1787. And then the fifth debater was W.L. Lillard himself, because he had it in for me because I was on a show, one of his television shows, about 3 or 4 months prior to this show. And he had on his show, on that date, he had a white host, a co-host. And this white co-host asked me some questions, and I gave him the answer, and then he started talking. Then I asked him, said, what date are you talking about? And that baffled him, and that stymied him, and he began to stumble all over the place with the cameras on him. So this brother had it in for me, which I didn't know that until I put it all together on that day of the great debate. So anyway, the great debate came off very, very good because I handled all 5 of them, because they all had jumped on me, one guy, thinking that they was going to subdue me or make me look stupid, because I'm saying that there's never been a man that walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Prophet Muhammad and a Jesus the Christ. You see? So that ticked him off. So the debate was on. And so anyway, that tape is a historical tape. It's a rare tape, and the information on that tape is priceless, because I think that everybody should hear that tape, and they can understand where these various religions are standing today, and they can understand why I'm saying that we as African people living in this country are not citizens of the United States of America due to the Constitution drawn up in 1787. So the great debate, that's some of it, So, but anyway, my name is Walter Williams. Born, raised, and miseducated in Chicago. I taught at 2 colleges, Kennedy King and Olive Harvey in Chicago, through the adult and continuing education program. And I also taught 3 years in elementary school, and my subject was ancient Egypt. So I taught the consciousness of ancient Egypt to my students. And, of course, I slipped a little the religion on there on the side, but you're not supposed to do that, because sometimes they send monitors into your classrooms and see what you're teaching. So anyway, I opened up a museum called the Ancient Egyptian Museum in March 11, 1990, here in Chicago. I bought a mansion and I turned it into a museum and an institute. So I had that up and running for 11 years, being financed from tuition coming from the students that wanted to enroll in our classes there, and coming from my pocket, personal pocket, and my wife's income. So anyway, that museum was up for 11 years, and we closed it in January 1, 2001. So anyway, that's a little history of Walter Williams and some of my things I have done over the years, over the 27 years that I've been out. Well, I've been out here for 45 years, really, but I'm talking about the 27 years of the 45 years that I've been out here. So that's what I have to say to that, Brother Tarhaka.
All right. Thank you so much, my illustrious brother. You did a wonderful job. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, for those of you who are new, the number to dial in the broadcast is 319-527-6084. That's 319-527-6084. We got our sister Emma McGowan. She's here with us tonight, and we got my brother out of Carolina. I'm going to open up his phone line so he can say hello to you. Area code 763. You're on the air with Dr. Walter Williams. You have any comments or questions?
Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, this is I'm Hazia Killen, and I'm so excited to be on the show and listen to Walter Williams. I'm always here to learn something new about our people, the ancient Egyptians / Moors / Africans. Mm-hmm. So I'm here. So I have some questions. I'm just waiting to listen to Dr. Walter Williams, and then I'll be able to ask questions when the time reaches.
Okay, all right. We'll just sit tight then. Dr. Williams, you want to give us some more insight on this from Pharaoh to Negro?
Well, you have the paper there, Brother Tarhaka. That's an article that I wrote for a Chicago newspaper in 1991, From Pharaoh to Negro. So I sent you that article so you can read it to the listening audience this evening.
Okay, well let me go and take up where I left off at last time we was on there, part 1. In the states, Name Negro.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Would you mind starting from the beginning? For those who didn't hear it last time, they can hear the whole, the thing this time, today.
Oh,
if you don't mind.
All right, I can do that. From Pharaoh to Negro by Dr. Walter Williams. Each year, the month of February is set aside to highlight the people of African origin, the events and the history that was made during their stay in this country called America. It began with Carter G. Woodson, the great educator and writer who initiated Negro History Week. Later, it was expanded for a month and called Black History Month. The name Black History Month was used for many years until Jesse Jackson suggested that we call ourselves African Americans. So today, the month of February is called African American History Month. Let's investigate and find out what we as a people are doing to ourselves when we accept and allow ourselves to be called by these meaningless names. Always remember, whatever name you call yourself, there's a history attached to it. Let us examine the name Negro. The name Negro was first given to us by the Portuguese and Spanish slave traders during our stay under their domination in the Americas, South America, Brazil, Venezuela, etc., etc. The name Negro was first applied to the Coptic Egyptian Moors who were taken out of Spain by Christopher Columbus on orders of Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492 for religious and racial reasons. The Coptic Egyptian Moors at that time were the highest civilized people on earth. Coptics are direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians, and with them were the last direct seeds of that great civilization. Prior to the Coptic Egyptian Moors being dumped in the Americas, their ancestors interacted with the indigenous Indians for many years. This is evident by the pyramids and other artifacts found in South and North America. This name Negro was applied to the Coptic Egyptian Moors to finish the destruction of the connection with their people and the institutions developed by their ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. The first damaging blow had been struck many years earlier by Alexander the Greek, who invaded Egypt in 332 BCE. In 1619 came the first enslaved Africans up to what is now the United States of America. These Africans, along with their ancient Egyptians who were living among indigenous Indians at the time, were grouped under one umbrella by the uncivilized, savage European enslavers. As part of the plan to demoralize and degrade the captured Africans, the Europeans called the Africans, including the free ancient Egyptians, by the most meaningless name ever applied to a group of people, Negro. The name Negro is translated to mean black, and today it is suggested to mean African American. If you research history attached to the name Negro, black, African American, you will find a non-existent, non-ethnic race of people due to the fact that one cannot go to the world map and pick out the geographical land area called Negro land, black land, or African American land. Further, this name Negro, in parentheses black, is defined in the history books written by Europeans to mean being cut off from the knowledge of which our ancient ancestors are. We find ourselves in a degraded dilemma. Whenever you let others define who you are, your perception of yourself is based on your views of someone else. It does not matter whether the view is correct or perverted. You are no longer in control of your own identity. Today, we are still allowing others to define who we are as a people. The blame can be placed on the institution of racism in America, the organized school system, and our so-called leaders, social, religious, and political, who have allowed us to continue in this debased ignorance to this very day. The name Negro, in parentheses black, leaves us without a common geographical identity. Moreover, there is no common ancient history or ancient tradition from which to connect our creations, inventions, or spiritual thoughts. If we continue to call ourselves Negro, Black, and African American, the name Negro, Black, African American are used to cover up the facts of our greatness as a people. Our history began thousands of years before slavery. Our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, gave the world civilization. It behooves us to begin this very day to transform, to transcend for all time the memory of our existence as descendants of slaves in this country, and reach for the hidden doors of our minds that will reintroduce us through celebration to our great and grand heritage and descendants of the ancient Egyptians.
Now,
the way of life, yeah?
Go ahead.
The way of life established by the ancient Egyptians was based on the cosmic order and balance of Ma'at. The ancient Egyptian goddess Ma'at represents truth, justice, peace, wisdom, and love. The rich culture of the first unified democracy of the world that were practiced in ancient Egypt were maintained for over 9,000 years, using Ma'at as their theme and underlying principle. The principle provided fairness, harmony, and security to all citizens of ancient Egypt. The genius of our ancient Egyptian ancestors is witnessed in the fact that they had the foresight and the insight to leave us their dark descendants who today, out of ignorance, are calling themselves Negroes, Blacks, African Americans, Nubians, Sudanese, and Ethiopians, and their mortal, divine spiritual legacy that still can be seen in the creation of their architecture, engineering, mathematics, science, physics, and literature, to name a few. The Sphinx, monuments, and the only remaining 7 wonders of the world. The Great Pyramid also evidenced this greatness. I now urge you to resurrect the ancient Egyptians into your spiritual consciousness, and in so doing, you will bring to light the great people that are inside of you, your ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, and at the same time, you will elevate yourself from a misnomer such as Negro, Black, African American, back to your world cosmic position, the Pharaoh. You must find your way back to ancient Egypt. Love and peace. Mayor Hotel, Walter Williams.
Now, let me ask you, is there a picture on that, on the back of that, with a boy looking in the mirror?
Let's see here. No, not from the article that I'm looking at.
Okay.
I got the excerpt from Wealth Share Society.
Oh, okay, okay.
There's no photograph on this one.
Okay, that was a well-read piece of information that you just disseminated to our African community and listening radio audience. That was brilliant, Brother Tarhaka. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Williams. I get excited about well-written material. So,
okay.
So I want to make sure I deliver that just right. We don't want to.
Well, you delivered it just right, my brother. Beautiful.
Okay. Will you have any other elaboration before I go back over here in the introduction to the historical origins of Christianity? You want to add anything else before I go back over there?
No, I want you to continue on with with your program that you have outlined this evening, and you're going back into the introduction of my first book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. And I advise everybody who has that book is to go back and reread the introduction to my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. And if you can do that once a day for 30 days, then you will be acclimated with the understanding, the greatness of our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. Because in that introduction gives you some of the greatest achievements that was ever created by man. And those great achievements were created by our African ancestors. So in the introduction that you're about to hear is in my book called The Historical Origin of Christianity. And you should read that once a day for 30 days until you really, really get saturated into understanding and have a feel and a meaningful feel for what our ancestors brought to this world through civilization. They were the first people on earth to bring forth civilization. They brought and gave the world the rudiments of civilization that we're using today. And so I want to let the listening audience know that civilization began in Africa, didn't begin in Europe, didn't begin in China, didn't begin in India. It began in Africa by an African people known in history as the ancient Egyptians in a country in the continent of Africa that is known as Egypt. That's where all civilization for the entire planet of humanity that is present today. So, but we have been taught away from it on purpose by those inferior, uncivilized, spiritually dead Europeans who did that on purpose to cut us off from our history of our ancestors. So Brother Tarhaka is going to read from the introduction of the historical origin of Christianity some of the great achievements that our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, brought forth into this world. So continue, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I recommend that you put your seatbelt on, because what we're about to do now is we're going to deal with the greatest lie that has ever been told in the history of the world. I repeat, the greatest lie that has ever been told in the history of the world. What you're about to witness is the unveiling of the greatest lie ever told. The creation of Christianity and the incarnated logo, Christ, was not an act or an event. It was a process that took more than 700 years to evolve. It was a process that took the image of the Greek Ptolemy I, Lagi, and ultimately transformed it into the Persuado Messiah, or K Christos Christ. Unfortunately, some of our Coptic Egyptian ancestors played a critical part in this charade, but it is inspiring to know that the majority of this community resisted the encroachment of this man-made entity to the point of death generation after generation. Walter Williams will take you through a step-by-step progression of historical events that ultimately resulted in the formation of Christianity. Walter's perspective is unique and new because it is completely void of biblical writing and influence. If there's one idea that Walter Williams has propounded, it is that Christianity, like all other religions, is man-made, not spiritually inspired. Within the pages of this book, The Historical Origins of Christianity by Dr. Walter Williams, you will learn when, where, and how Christianity came about. You no longer have to suspend your common sense or analytical powers or be afraid to question the so-called Word of God. Walter Williams is the vanguard in investigative research and new scholarship. I invite you active participation by reading every powerful line. I challenge you to dismiss your fears and use your analytical ability to its greatest extent. The cycle has been broken. Walter Williams has successfully circumvented the elaborate web of lies, tricks, and perverted scholarship used to control the whole world. In conclusion, the historical origin of Christianity is a profound achievement in investigative research. It is uniquely bold, penetrating, and liberating. The author has transcended the myths that have entrapped the majority of the scholarly community since the advent of the so-called European Renaissance. Although these deceptions did not originate in the Renaissance Europe, it was during that period that they were fused with political intent and taken to a new dimension. A classical analysis of the self-incriminating European philosophy is poignantly brought to light through the work of Niccolo Machiavelli, an Italian statesman and Renaissance writer. In his book entitled The Prince, Machiavelli explains that the European mindset is one of corruption, treachery, and duplicity. Among Europeans, these practices are endorsed and highly recommended as a means for achieving any desirable end, whereby the end always justifies the means, and the end is always related to the acquisition of political power and control. This formula, which was so much a part of European thinking during the Renaissance era, can be divulged at the same critical glue that holds together the illusionary facet of the Western world today. That is the conclusion of the introduction, and then we later on, when I guess we can go a little bit further. But Dr. Williams, I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines and let our guests in, and we can take on off with this thing.
Okay, I'm waiting.
All right, I'm going back up to area code 763. Brother, come on back in, man. 763, you're on the air. Now I got 415. I'm sorry. I put you off. Area code 415. Tell us who you are and where you're calling from. Okay, 415 is not with us. Maybe take a little break.
I'm listening.
Oh,
Hello?
you're listening. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see now. We got 763. You are on the air. You got anything else to say? Not yet. Okay, so let me go down here and let me open up area code 415. Last four numbers, 2511. You are on the air. Tell us who you are. Where you calling from?
This is Pearl Howell. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you loud and clear, sister. Come on in here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm calling from San Francisco, California, and I just got on, so I'm listening.
Okay, now you are you the sister that went to Egypt?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well now you know we want to talk to you some more.
Well, Emma McGowan also went to Egypt. They both went to Egypt.
I know.
So
I know she did.
That's the reason why I wanted both of them to be our special guests this evening, so they can tell their experience of going, into Egypt.
Okay, well now I have a question for both of them. Their lines are open. And Sister Emma, your line is open as well. Could you tell us if you all paid attention to any American-made items that you might have seen in Egypt, and if you did see any of that, and you know it was something that was made in the United States of America, well, what did you see there?
I saw Coca-Cola.
Okay. What about you? What did you see? Okay, so we got some Coca-Cola over there.
I think that's the only thing I saw too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pearl.
I think I was trying to think of what I saw American, and I couldn't think of anything either, except maybe that Coca-Cola when we stopped on the road on a stand one day.
Okay, now when you went into the inner city, what did they have, like fruit and vegetable markets, and what did they have to offer? What fruit and vegetables that you can remember that you've seen that you've never seen before? Did you see anything like that?
I don't remember seeing anything like that. I would have remembered that, but then it's been a while. I don't remember seeing anything because basically, you didn't really eat outside a couple of times we ate at a restaurant. But I didn't see nothing unusual.
When y'all went into the restaurant, how was the service in that restaurant? And did they have like a waiter service, and did y'all get a chance to tip the waiters and all of that stuff?
Well, this is Pearl. I think ours was pretty much what you would see anywhere. I think people are used to having tourists and visitors, and they would attempt to cater to them like you would in almost any place, at least the ones we were in. Of course, they don't serve pork there. It's a Muslim country, but they did have some kind of beef bacon for people who wanted it. Seems like they were trying to cater to whoever the guests were in the hotels. And
did y'all run into? What about the vegetarians? Did you run into any of them over there?
Yeah, of course. I was pretty much one of them. I ate a lot of yogurt.
Okay.
Some good. Okay. They had some black-eyed peas and greens and.
Really?
A lot of food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. They had some black-eyed peas in this restaurant owned by in one restaurant. I'm getting it mixed up with something else now. Yeah.
Now the restaurants were how many companies or businesses that you've seen that were owned by Africans there?
I don't remember any.
Okay, so these were owned all by like Arabs and other people from other nationalities that are calling themselves Egyptians.
Let me just say this: we didn't. The group that I was with. Okay, so we was on a boat for about a week, I think, from Aswan back up to Egypt. Back up to Cairo. So basically, we was not eating off of that boat. We was eating on the boat, because they had 3 meals. You go out, you go to the port, and they had about 3 meals on there. The meals were sold, and they had a menu like a restaurant, And the menu, and they had so much food at some point. I just started eating 2 times or 1 time a day.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so but y'all never did get a chance to.
And then the hotels was pretty much, you know, they were pretty much the same as the ship almost. It was like you had most of it was in the hotel.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And when y'all touched land, did you ever get a chance to go up into any of the communities at any time? Now, I know you told me about the guy that invited y'all to his house for tea, and he put a bag of sugar in it. But did you go anywhere else? Did you get a chance to see any communities that did you get a chance to visit any communities so that you could see how the people are living and their day-to-day activity?
Actually, I did. This is Pearl. We when we were in Aswan, we actually went to a wedding, and so we got invited to go to the wedding parties that night before. The wedding was the next day, and so we went to the women's party, and then we went to the men's party, our group. So we took a little boat and went up the river a little bit, up the Nile, and we got off the boat, and we went into the village. And the women were there, and they were having a party, and they were drinking tea, and they had music, and so you got a feel for the village. I think I mentioned last time you could close your eyes and think you were in Mississippi. The ground was swept clean. It was neat. This is a Nubian village. And then we went down to the men's village, and they had a party down there. And then the next day we were invited to the wedding, which was in the city. It wasn't far, but it was in the town, and it was in a big like a outdoor pavilion, like center. And it was very nice. The people were Nubian. They kind of reminded me of us as African Americans. They had everybody, all shades of people, from very dark to light skin to Arabic looking, kind of a mixture. And it was very nice.
Now the language that the people spoke there, what type of language was that?
Well, the main language is Arabic, of course, because it's Arabic. But the Nubians spoke Nubian also.
But a lot of them spoke English.
And a lot of them spoke English. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of the Nubians, a lot of them spoke English when we went. Because we didn't go to a wedding or anything, but we did go on a ship, little boats and stuff they had out there. We went down on the Nile with them and stuff like that, and they would talk to you and stuff and tell you different stuff, and they talked English.
Right.
And they were just because we was laughing about some of the guys because we said, because I think it was in one of those places we went into where the traffic was horrible. The police standing on the sidewalk because he don't want to get hit, and the traffic was horrendous. It was like you could not move in that traffic. It was just like everybody going wherever way they wanted to go. That's how I saw it. And then and we started laughing because we said, "Oh, look at that! That's some of the brothers we know. They act less like some of the brothers we knew in the city." We started laughing.
Red lights and stop signs and stuff like that.
I don't remember any. I don't remember them.
I didn't either. And no lanes.
Right, exactly. No lanes. That's exactly right. No lanes. It's just like cattle running wild in the street, only it was the cars.
Okay.
So,
well, now the police police officers have guns?
Well, I don't even remember, but I don't think so.
I don't
think
remember.
so.
I don't remember if they had guns or not. Another thing I want to say, we did go to a village. We visited a Nubian village. Our group did.
Okay.
And in the village,
yeah, we did too.
Yes, in the village, they were expecting us, and we had a welcome. They had a big sign up that said "Welcome, cousins."
Oh, okay.
And
oh yeah, they did call you cousin. That's true. That's true. But I didn't see. We didn't have a sign up, but they did call us cousins.
They had the sign, and so they had a event in the village, and while we were there.
Okay. Did y'all get any rain when you was there? Any kind?
Not when I was there.
I don't remember any rain. Me either. It was hot.
Okay, and who that was?
It was so hot in Cairo. I went on a camera ride. Didn't you, Pharaoh?
I did too. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. We went to the pyramids in Giza, and when you went out there, it was in the evening. And it was nice because it's cooler on the desert at night than in the daytime. And so we were out in the evening, and we rode the camel. And the camel is really interesting when you get on the camel, tilts forward and to stand up, and it's like you're gonna fall over its head, and then it gets up. And then mine started to run across the desert. That was a little scary.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
So I guess, that's a standard kind of tourist thing I guess they do.
Yeah.
What was most interesting to me, though, is we were there with the Aztec conference, as I had said before, and we were at the hotel, and there were lots of people there, scholars, and some Egyptian, Nubian scholars, and we would have conversations in the hotel. And so we got a chance to just talk to people about the Nubian people, about the culture, and, who they were and how they felt about things that were going on. And they got opportunity to ask us questions, too. That was most interesting to me.
Okay, now when the people were speaking, Arabic, did you understand any of what they were saying when they were speaking that? I mean, you didn't feel like they were making any derogatory remarks in another language.
No, I didn't. I didn't understand. I didn't speak Arabic, but I'll tell you this: when we went to the women's wedding party, how the women would be covered up because they're Arabic, and so we covered up pretty much too, respecting the culture. And there's some ladies, we would look at each other, the Nubian ladies, and we couldn't speak each other's language. These particular ladies, I don't know that they spoke English because they didn't say that much, very much. But we would look at each other, and we would, admire each other. And one lady actually took off her shawl, and she put it around me. And, we kind of communicated nonverbally. And it was nice. It was pleasant,
I remember that when we went to the village, a lot of them couldn't speak English, but, went to the marketplace where they buy stuff and they trying to sell you stuff, and so they some of them could speak enough English, and some of them couldn't. But they could, like you said, you could talk to them whether it was nonverbal or whatever. I remember I was going to ask this guy. I kept asking this guy what was the restroom, so he didn't really know what I was talking about. So then I said I got to find a way to tell him. So I just squatted. I squat. He said, "Oh." And then she showed me where the restroom was in that marketplace. I said, I got to figure out how I'm going to make him understand. Then when I squatted, he understood then.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was fun in the marketplace. I don't know how much time you spent in the marketplace. But we went there quite a few days. But we had the woman teaching us, some teacher from, I guess our group was from Cleveland, I don't know, Indiana, somewhere up there. And every evening you could have she would go through us with a class and go tell us about Egypt, up and low and all that stuff. And the woman we had for a guide, she was an Egyptian from she was Egyptian. She had just finished Egyptology.
Right.
And
we had classes also every day in the hotel.
Oh, right.
And of course we were with the conference, and we was with Dr. Ben, Naeem Akbar, Asa Hilliard, Professor Smalls, Dr. John Henrik Clark was on the trip, and so they would lecture in the evenings, like you said, on Egyptology, and they would tell us what we're going to be seeing the next day when we would go out to the pyramids and the tombs. And we were we would get up really early because it was hot, and we wanted to get there before noon. So we would be leaving at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, so that we would be out there in midday, because nobody was out in midday except the tourists, you know, because it's too hot.
Yeah, right.
And so we would, so we would get out and we would get back. So that was a great experience, because then you had a chance to know what you were going to see and what it was, and to talk about it. And then sometimes we'd come back in the evenings, we'd sit in the lounge and talk about what we had seen and what it meant. And it was very educational.
Okay.
So how many people was in your group, Pharaoh?
We had a big group. I'm going to say about 50.
Oh, wow.
From all over the country.
Well, we had 16, and they was from all over the country. But then they had the kids. They had a group of kids from Cleveland, but they didn't catch the bus. They only stayed on the bus. They had them to do the bus from, you know, like we flew in different places and stuff like that. You went up somewhere in the ship. You went up to Cairo on the ship through the Nile and stuff. But what they did is they went all the way on the bus, and they stopped in a lot of villages and stuff.
Oh, well, we
but the kids never did get on the ship.
Oh, I see. Well, we didn't. We weren't on the ship at all. We flew into Cairo.
Oh, okay.
We were there 2 or 3 days. You know, in the museum and everything, the perfume factory, the pyramids. And then we flew to Aswan, and then from Aswan we got on a boat, and went to Luxor.
Oh yeah.
And then back to Cairo.
Luxor. I think we seemed like we flew in Luxor. We flew somewhere in that part of it, as part of it.
Right.
But yeah. Because we was there 3 weeks. I don't know how long were you there?
We were there about 3 weeks also.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it was a pretty
we
basic,
had a week of conference in Aswan. The conference was going on, the Association for the Classical Study of African History and Culture. That conference was held there.
Oh, okay.
And it was in Aswan in an auditorium. So you could go to the conference every day. You know, they had workshops and lectures and scholars from all over right there. Renoko Rashidi, I'm trying to think of all the names of people who were there. So many people. And so you could go to the lectures. You could go to the parts of the conference. People, kind of went in and out. And then in the evenings, and then after the conference, we was more touring. I'm thinking now the conference was probably maybe 4 days or something, like a long weekend, maybe like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, something like that.
Oh, okay.
And
because we went out, and a lot of times, we went out in the evening. I mean, in the daytime, But when you got inside the cave, they were saying how they had reflected the sun and able to design it where the sun, but you didn't have to, there was no electricity in the cave, but you still could see good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because they were saying how they position it in reference to the sun, but yet when you got out of the bus, air-conditioned bus, it was hot outside, but once you got in the caves, it wasn't hot anymore.
Right, it was cool. Especially in the tombs, too. You know, we would climb down into the tombs and go in and come back out. Mm-hmm.
In the sarcophagus.
Okay, now, the inside the cave, was the floor made of stone or was it made of dirt or sand?
Now, you know they moved a lot of that stuff because they talked about how they had moved it. So I don't remember, to be honest.
What I'm recalling was stone. What I'm recalling is stone. It seemed like it was stone, and there were different levels, you know, and different channels inside of the tombs. You could go deeper and deeper, and then there were some narrow passageways that you could kind of climb down through. You know, I'm glad I went when I was young and could climb through all that. So, so it was.
Well, you taking yoga, so you can still do it. It ain't like you've been sitting around doing nothing. I mean, you're a yoga woman, so you the teacher, so you can still do it. So you not won't be able to do it.
Right. It was a lot of climbing. It was so impressive because it was so much. I think my impression was, wow, this is so much. So tombs.
Oh, it was. You get overwhelmed. That's true.
You're overwhelmed, and I'm thinking this is so much.
Right.
And then you realize how old it is.
Right. Because that's why I guess because we had planned on going back, and you know, but things started kind of getting out of hand over there. So we've been with because I'm saying, damn, you need to go another time because the first time it's like you overwhelmed with it all.
Exactly. Now you know. Now you can know what you want to look at and know what you want to see. So it was fascinating.
Well, let me say this, you all. First place, you know, what you're calling caves, you were inside of the pyramid. Is that correct?
And tombs, pyramids and tombs.
Yeah, right. Pyramid and tombs.
Yeah, please don't call them caves, because our ancestors did not live in caves, tents, or any place like the jungle.
They were the tombs and the other whatever tombs.
Yeah, see, our ancestors, ancient Egyptians, never lived in caves, tents, or the jungle. They lived in brick buildings that they built because they knew and created all forms of mathematics. In order to build anything, you need to have the knowledge of mathematics. That's number one. Let me add to this conversation also about the Nubians. The Nubians are Africans. They are the direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians. That's the only.
That we did know. I did know that. Yeah, when we went. I told you some of them act just like the brothers at home. We started laughing because they ain't got it to meet us, especially when we was in that traffic.
Right. Well, see, that's the only.
We had a driver, huh?
I was saying, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. And then we went in a lot of the museums, and you could see, you know, some of the people that look like some of the people you know, stuff like that. At least, you know, to me they did.
They're the Nubians are the last remnants that can be connected to our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians we talk about during the time of antiquity, ancient times. So they're the last of that remnants that's left over there. And the country that we call the Sudan, the old name for the Sudan is Nubia.
Yes.
You see?
Oh, okay.
So that's where the Nubians tie in with ancient Egypt because the ancient Egyptians out of ancient Egypt, and Nubia, which is called the Sudan today, was all connected by way of the Nile.
Right. Yeah, because you saw a lot. I saw a lot of Sudanese when I went to the marketplace.
Okay.
Because they look different than the Nubians, because they was tall, and the Nubians was a lot was dark skinned, but them Sudanese was black.
The ones in the Sudanese was black, right?
Oh they were really black, tall and kind of slim. Most of them that I saw.
Well, they're all the same. You know, they're all African.
I know, but the Nubians, I understand that. But the Nubians look like to me they was a little bit shorter. They wasn't tall and thin like the Sudanese. You could just tell the difference in them, and they were all dark. But now the Nubians, the ones that we saw, and I'm sure that most of them had kind of straight hair. I don't know.
Okay,
do you find that to be true, Pharaoh? Huh?
Some did, some didn't. I think were. Some, of course, were mixed with the Egyptians, like I'm saying. They look like to me, maybe like a Black American family. You got a whole range of colors, you know.
Right, exactly, right.
So you can't don't separate the two.
Now I'm not trying to separate them. I'm just saying how you know what, because you do have Sudan right there. So
right.
you could, I mean, just like some parts of Africa, you get those tall. You get the
like
tall African. Yeah, Maasai, just like my cousin. Now look at Harry Edwards. His sister, he's really our cousin. He's from East St. Louis. Okay, he's on the cruise side of the family. Okay, and so what his sisters is just as tall as he is. Okay,
maybe he's Maasai.
You can't.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. They from
are you using that as a trait, Emma? Or are you saying that's a trait, which is the people of the Africans in the Sudan is different from the ones?
No. I'm just saying. I noticed that Sudanese people seem to be the ones that I saw seem to be taller than the Egyptians and the Nubians in Egypt than the ones that's already there. You could just tell they was from Sudan. I asked some of them, and even one of the Arabs said they was from Sudan.
All right, but I don't want you to separate them.
Well, no, they all Africans. I understand
they're
that.
all Africans, and they're all just citizens.
Ain't no way in the hell you go separate them. They too black. Okay?
Oh,
ain't no way.
Don't make
it too mixed. Ain't nothing mixed about them. Okay? So you ain't gonna confuse them. Okay? I was just saying that because they were the only thing I was saying. You had people there was from Sudan. Okay, that's it. I ain't trying to separate them. Okay, they was from that part of the Africa. Don't
separate them because you're bringing confusion.
I'm not.
Yeah. Okay.
I ain't bringing no confusion because they were from Sudan.
Okay, I got you.
But Sudan, ain't it in Africa?
Yeah,
it is.
Man, that's like picking toes on your same foot, okay?
Right. So what I'm saying, there's no difference between the Nubians.
I'm not trying to make a difference.
I know.
In different parts, yeah.
I'm saying don't make the two.
Okay, Walter. Hey, Walter, move on to something else because that's the mute point you just made. Okay, just move on. Okay, because I ain't separating them. Okay, we don't need to get stuck there.
All right. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I'm on the same page. That's why I told you to move on so we can get on the right page.
Right. Okay.
Another page.
Okay. Well.
Shit.
Okay,
I think it would be important to note that when we visit, of course, we're visiting Egypt today, you know, and things on the continent have changed. There was colonialism. There was all kinds of things that happened, and so many people have been in Egypt. All kind of people, the French, the all these people. So we're there at a modern time. I think, Walter, you're taking us back you're saying this is where it started. This was before all of these other things happened. Is that right?
Well, see, I'm trying to take you back to ancient Egypt.
Yeah, right. She said.
A lot of things happened through the years. A lot of things. But the main thing I'm going to
ask us, what did we see in Egypt and how, things that we saw? This is modern time what we saw with our eyes now.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure.
So that's why I say move on, because we don't need to argue about that.
No, we're not arguing about it. We're just bringing out different points. During the time of antiquity, our ancestors never lived in the jungles, caves, or tents, or huts.
Right.
Okay? They lived in brick buildings. Now, what happened over the period of years, things changed with the influx of different people. Now, over that today, as I speak, Egypt is dominated by a European people known and called Arabs.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
So now they set up with the Arabs. They've added some other things to Egypt because of their culture, but they're not indigenous to Egypt. You have to be an African to be an ancient Egyptian. You have to be an African to identify with the people, the Africans that brought civilization to this world. The people living over there now, like I said, are Europeans, and they're called Arabs, and they're not indigenous to ancient Egypt or to Egypt. Okay, so they have a different history altogether. So that's what I'm going to bring out. So you all are doing a great job. Continue on.
Well,
all right. I'm listening. What else y'all gonna lay on?
We went to the. I went to the church. We went to the church. They
had a church there.
The old church. That old church. I forgot the name of it. Did you
I
go
didn't
there?
Go there, but Beulah was I didn't. We didn't go to a church. What is a Coptic church though?
Egyptian church.
Coptic.
Something like that. But it had a name, but I don't remember the name because we went down there, and some way you go down in it. But anyway, we went there, and had a little thing on it, and but I can't remember the name of it. But it was the old, like you say, old Coptic Egyptian church.
Coptic Christians. They were Coptic Christians. Like the Ethiopians are Orthodox Christians, and then there were Coptic Christians, and these are early ones. Christianity that came to us in this country came through the Roman line. Roman Catholicism, which came later. So everybody didn't come through that lineage.
And then one of those tombs we went into, you could see, and I'm not trying to remember if it was a tomb or what, but anyway, you went in, and I don't know, you'll remember if you went in there, because you saw the ISIS and all that stuff, and then you knew that's where they had got the Holy Trinity from.
Yes. I remember that.
Did you go in there?
Yes, and so many of the what they call the hieroglyphs, the miniature on the carvings, the drawings on the insides of the tombs really tell the story.
Right. Exactly.
And you saw the principles, the mother, father, God principle, mother, father, child, the Trinity.
Right. Right. I said, that's where they got it from. I said, okay.
Yeah, it just makes perfect sense.
Right. And let's see, I'm trying to remember because some of that stuff I don't really remember. And
did the children behave themselves over there?
The ones
I didn't see a whole lot of kids. Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of kids acting up. They not Americans, No. In fact, the trip was good. I don't remember anything bad coincidences at all. Except some of the people. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you remember what? Go ahead. No.
Well, when we first arrived into the airport at Cairo, and of course that's a huge international city. Our group was deplaning, and when we got off, we were detained for a bit. And some of the people in our group had Muslim names because they were Muslims here, and so they pulled them aside, but they had a lot of them had traveled quite a bit, so they had all their papers with them. You know, they want to know who are you, what's your nationality, where you from, because they're looking at their names. And but these people the brothers that were with us in the group with the names, they travel a lot, so they knew to travel with their documents, and we were just detained for a while, and then they rejoined the group and we went on. You know.
No. Well, this Egyptian guy, when we went in to Cairo, we actually flew into Aswan. And so what he did was had everything, and he went, and all we had to do was follow him through.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he had it all. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and our guides too. Everything was really organized. And you know, you had your agendas all laid out for you, your tours, everything.
Right.
So it wasn't like we went off on our own. Although I did run into, now I'm recalling a brother that I knew here in San Francisco that I used to work with and did research. And he had been living over there. He was teaching in one of the universities, and he'd been there a good while, you know.
Well, what did he say? Did he give you
he said he enjoyed living there. He'd been living there a good while. He was a professor at the university, and you know, he was saying it was a great experience for him. I don't know that he was intending to or even stayed indefinitely, but he was there for a time, you know.
Well, did he point out some places that y'all should check out and stuff like that?
He asked us where we were going. You know, we had an itinerary, and we had all our, you know, they had all the places all kind of lined up. So, you know, he was, you know, saying you guys are going to all the places, of course, and you'll get to see this. He might suggest a restaurant or something. You know, he was in the city. He was in Cairo, and he didn't live in the village. He lived in the city. It's a little different.
And they in the city of Cairo. So did you see what they call the city of the dead?
Yes.
Where people actually live in the graveyard.
Oh.
Really?
People lived there? I thought they were buried on one side.
That's why they call the city of the dead. The people actually lived in the graveyard. Lots of people.
I didn't see any. I don't remember seeing people there, but I know from the lectures we talked about in the ancient Egyptian culture, they you know, were buried in the west, or you know, you could read about the graves they bury in the west. They had lots of highly sophisticated culture and rituals and things that they did a certain way, you know.
Yeah, right. And how they could preserve the body.
How you were buried and taken care of, and a lot of emphasis on the afterlife.
They had a lot of that stuff in it. We went to that mummy. Didn't they have a museum just of mummies, as I remember?
Yes.
I went. Because I'd almost forgot about it until you started talking about how they do stuff. We went down there where the mummies were and stuff. How they had preserved all the mummies. Yeah.
Right. And then there was one. Was that Arafat? I'm trying to think of when the year I went was Arafat. It was the president, or whomever the president was. He was a Egyptian mix. You could tell he looked just like my dad, actually. He
he's the same one they threw out. He was the same one they threw out because he was there for 30-some years. I remember who he was.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He had African blood. He also was mixed with Egyptian, and but he was talking to the Europeans who had stolen so much stuff out of Africa, which they had, and he was saying, stop digging up our ancestors. You know, the scientists would come and dig the mummies up and cut them open, and he would say he stopped them from digging up their ancestors, and he said, and we want our things back from the museums that were stolen out of here. I remember that conversation was happening. Because so much of that is in the museums in Europe.
Right, exactly. And what I was gonna say too, remember all that stuff that that square where a lot of that stuff was moved.
Yeah.
Because one of those tombs when we went, they was redoing it and it wasn't there because I think they was moving it then. So they had closed it. And I can't remember what tomb it was.
Right. Those things were stripped. I mean, they had gold on them, and they had all kinds of things, but none of that stuff was there anymore. And they had people who robbed those graves.
Right,
people robbed those graves. Mm-hmm. So
and they said
remember what in the museum in the King Tut display as it went around the world from Europe or somewhere.
Right. But they probably couldn't find it. That's probably why they didn't do it. Yeah. But remember that what was I gonna say? You remember where the Sphinx and all them was? That stuff was moved. They had moved it because of I don't know if it was the water or something had happened where they had to move that stuff and they moved it up, I guess higher. I don't know. But anyway.
The temple at Aswan was moved. At Aswan, you know, the scientists wanted to, we were told, wanted to produce more crops. It's because the people would wait until the Nile flooded over to fertilize the soil along the Nile, the agricultural Nubians, and so they wanted to, you know, make more crops, and so they were trying to create dams and things to make it, you know, be more productive. And they moved the temple at Aswan, I understand, from one. I think they showed us one location where it was originally, and they had gold, and they had built it such that when the sun shone in on a certain time of year, it would shine right on this gold, I don't know what it was at the top, a turret or some kind of thing at the top, where it would light up the whole hill, and it would happen on the exact coronation day of one of the pharaohs. And so when the people moved it, the story was they had all these scientists from all over, from France, from England, most Europeans, and all over. So they redid it because they were trying to change the agriculture. And when they put it back, they couldn't get it on the same day. They couldn't. Their calculations didn't let them. They weren't. I guess they weren't as smart as the original Egyptians because they had calculated it just right, but they were off by a day. And so rather than
what did they expect?
They moved it, and they couldn't get it so the sun would shine on that exact day like it had been before. And so rather than admit that they didn't know what they were doing, they just changed the day.
Wow.
Well, let me say this. Say this about Aswan. You remember that Aswan had flooded, and they had to move all the statues and monuments north.
I knew it was somewhere they had got it from to move it because that was Yeah,
so that was back.
I didn't know where.
I think that was back in the maybe the 70s or so, when that had that flood over there in Aswan. So they moved all the statues and the monuments and whatever else further north to get it out of the danger of being damaged by water. That's number one.
Right.
Number two, I want to say that we're talking about Nubians. Anwar Sadat was a Nubian, born in the Sudan.
I remember,
You remember Anwar Sadat? But the thing about Anwar,
that's what I was talking about, Anwar Sadat. Yes.
The thing I didn't like about Anwar Sadat, when he came to America, he never stopped in our community and say hi. Nothing. Okay? He ignored the African community in America. He never acknowledged us as being part of ancient Egypt or being part of himself by associating with us as being Africans. Both of us Africans. So I just want to bring that out. And the third thing I want to bring.
He didn't know any more better.
I think he knew better. He wasn't an ignorant man. He knew better.
Huh?
But he knew better, but it was political. I think he used the political part of ignoring us rather than acknowledging us because it was political.
Well, it's politically correct to ignore us with Egypt right now.
What was that again?
I mean, really, it is. I said it is probably politically correct. A lot of people, when you gave me that, that button and stuff I used to wear, I am an ancient Egyptian. Right. A lot of people say, well, they really want to argue with me, and how I would shut them down would say, well, in Egypt, in the continent of Africa, and most
that ends the argument. That ends the argument. Right. And if they ask you further, say,
no, they don't want to acknowledge it.
Right. Now, another thing I want to bring up about Egypt, it never rains over there.
Oh, it never rains. No wonder we
never rain. See,
oh, wow.
You have canals, and back during the ancient times, they had the inundation once a year from the water melt, the ice and snow melting off of the Abyssinian mountain in Ethiopia, and that water would flow right into lake in the largest lake in Ethiopia, and from that lake it flows right into, and that flows into the White Nile, which is the waterway that runs through the Sudan. It's called the White Nile, and the water is coming out of Ethiopia from the Abyssinian mountain.
It's the Blue Nile?
It's the Blue Nile. It's correct. So that's a little something.
And the Nile flows up. It doesn't flow down from.
Correct. The Nile flows up because of the cataract or the waterfall.
Right.
But the source of the Nile River comes out of Uganda.
Yes.
It comes from Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the tallest mountain in the world. That's in Tanzania. Tanzania borders Uganda. And that water coming, and the ice and snow is melting from that Mount Kilimanjaro, empties out into Lake Albert, you see. And then it flows north by way of cataracts.
Right.
Those are the cataracts of those 125 feet waterfalls.
Oh, wow.
So once the water hits and drops 125 feet down below, then once it hit the surface down there, that water spatters and keeps moving north. You see?
Wow.
So the next cataract picks up that flow of water, and it does the same thing until it goes into. See, Uganda is connected to the south of the Sudan, and from all that marsh, you got 4,000. You got hundreds of miles of marsh land in the north of the Sudan, and that water coming out of from the Mount Kilimanjaro through Uganda flows into the south of the Sudan, and they have, over the years, they have created water veins, and that water veins in the south carries that water and feeds into the main Nile or the White Nile or the Nile River and goes through the Sudan. So that's a little history there, you know.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask y'all this now, ladies.
Huh?
What about when y'all was there? What about convenience stores, service stations, McDonald's, and Burger King? Did y'all see that?
They might have had them in the big city like Cairo, but I don't remember seeing that. It could have been in Cairo though, because they have everything in the big cities. But I don't recall seeing stores like that in Aswan. And when we were in the countryside, going to the villages and on the roads, there were little stands where people sold Coca-Cola and sodas and ice and water, things like that on the side of the road. But these were the local people with stands, and then they had people were selling bread on the street, on the road, or something like that. I don't remember a lot of fast food places, but we didn't spend a whole lot of time in Cairo, but I would bet you there's everything there,
Mm-hmm.
But
what about at night and the electricity and the lights and stuff? How was the city looking at night?
They had electricity, but right, yeah, they just like a 5-star hotel in the what's called in the States. We wasn't in no slum, babe.
Now y'all said we're real world hot over there, so did you see anybody outside with a barbecue grill trying to grill a little something? Did you see any of that going on?
I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that.
Me neither. But I remember one night we was in, because we didn't go out that much after dark. We was out in some restaurant, and the mosquitoes was out there swinging around you. But, but other than that, and then we made sure we had some skin so soft on so they wouldn't bite you. But other than that, I was glad to get back in that hotel room.
And even in the daytime when it's really, really hot, you know how the men wear the galabia, the long robe, it's white, with sleeves and covered up because you don't want that sun beating directly into your skin.
Right.
Okay. So that means that the women that was covered up and you could see a portion of their face. Is that correct?
Say what?
You could see a
women
portion of the women's
cover
face.
a portion of their face, and they mostly wore black long stuff.
They did. The women.
Okay, I remember.
Well, yes.
The
men, I guess they had, the heat. But you see, a lot of people think you take, it's like last week or two, the trainer said, ain't you hot? I said, I'm hot, but I don't like that sun beaming down on my skin and the sweat. I said, I got something on me. I got something to catch the sweat. I said, I don't like that stuff beaming down on me like that. So I always have something on even when I sweat. I don't take it off because I'm saying, to me, that's worse.
And you might see people like you in other countries that are really hot, Guam and places like that, Philippines. They have carry umbrellas, parasols for the sun. You don't want the sun beaming down on you.
Right.
And nobody's walking around in shorts and things like that. That's
right.
That's not
exactly. And even though, you know what, it was an illusion of being hot anyway because you was on air-conditioned bus. And when you went in the museums and stuff, it was cool in there. So you did. The only time I knew it was really hot, it was really humid in Cairo. Because I remember hanging something out, and it didn't dry because the humidity was so high. But in
I
Aswan,
remember feeling like it was like Arizona, kind of dry heat on the desert.
Well, it was dry, and that's what I'm saying. It seems as though when stuff is dry, stuff don't dry. So there was something weird about Cairo because I remember hanging something out. I washed it, and I went back, and it was hot enough for it to dry, but it
didn't dry.
I said it was humid. It didn't dry.
Right. Right.
But in Aswan, the weather was hot, but it was a little bit different kind of heat. Now, don't ask me the difference, but
it
seemed like it wasn't quite as humid or something, because usually humidity is what makes stuff kind of sticky and not dry well, right?
Right.
And that's what I remember. Maybe because nobody else watched. I just watched a little bit of stuff and hung up.
Right.
Let me interject this to the conversation. When people come from America going into tour Egypt, they usually go with a chartered group.
Right.
And that chartered group is coming from an agency that that put on tours every year, and sometimes throughout the whole entire year. So I'm saying that to say this: once you sign up to go to Egypt with this agency, you have a prepared program for you. In other words, all mapped out.
But not
where you going.
Sometimes you. Well, when we came in the port at different ports in that on that ship, we could go out kind of on our own on some days and come back at a certain time. But we could go out on our own, and we did go out.
Yeah, you can go out on your own,
yeah.
and spend money and buy merchandise and so forth and so on. So you can go out on your own. But what I'm saying, mainly, you went with a group.
Right. You're right.
And that group is coming from some type of agency who have a program for that group for some days. If you're going for 3 weeks or 15 days or whatever the case might be, they got your itinerary all laid out for you.
Yes.
Where you going?
Right. Yes.
You're going to eat and so forth and so on. So it's no let you off the plane and you go scattered throughout Egypt like that. No, it's all organized and under the organization of itinerary. That's what it is, itinerary. So in your itinerary, you may designate to go certain places and at certain times. You eat at a certain times and so forth and so on. You all eat in one group. So that's what I wanted to say about that. Continue, ladies.
Well, that's true. That's why I was wanting to go with a group that, because you're going to get different perspectives depending on who you go with. And the guys will tell you different things depending on who you go with. And what I was going to ask you, Professor, is when you talk about the ancient, the Nubians and who was Nubian and who was Arabic and so forth, I'm wondering, based on some of the conversations we had, whether even sometimes the people there don't really know their own background and history because it's ancient. The scholars know, the people like you know, the scholars know, the Nubian scholars know, they're aware of it, but if you've lived for 4,000 or 5,000 years, or so, not you personally, but many, many years later, after so many other, it's been conquered and colonized and everything else, and then you're intermixed with all these people, you may not know the real history unless you had an opportunity to know it.
Because the woman that was supposed to study Egyptology, we were schooling her. We were schooling her about stuff that we knew about Egypt that she didn't. So that's very true.
Well, what I'm saying, I'll say to that is this. Yeah, she went through a learning process that was prepared for her to teach her group, teach anybody that comes over in Egypt. That's all prepared by way of...
You mean this woman?
Western academia set that up, okay?
Yeah, but
and Western academia want to teach people coming to ancient Egypt from what they have told the world through books and through the institution. You see, so it's all organized. But now
I know, but we had to school her, and we schooled her though. We schooled her.
Right. See, so I had to school, when I went over there, I had to school my tour guide. She was a white woman. I had to
I'm
tour.
sure.
And she said, well, you know, you telling me something I don't know. I said, well, that's part of life. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that people out there today, as I speak, as we speak, they know who we are. Like the Roman Catholic Church know who we are. The Roman Catholic Church today, as I speak, know that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Jesus Christ. They know that there's no Jesus Christ. They know how this Christ, this man created Christ was made, when it was made, who made it, who created the Virgin Mary, the non-human Virgin Mary. They know the whole history of it. You see? So people out there, they know who we are.
Well, Professor, I guess my question is, I think the scholars know, the people in charge know, but do the masses know? Because a lot of people
the masses don't know
what they've been told about.
Right, the masses don't know.
They have
That's
no
why they
access to the information. The Catholic Church didn't even.
Right.
They didn't even. The scholars read. The people.
What I'm saying to you is this: the masses of people do not know. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people in certain positions, in certain living conditions, etc., etc. They know who we are. For instance, the Roman Catholic, Western academia, they know who we are. The government of America know who we are. And so forth and so on. The government of Egypt know who we are. You see, so they know. But they're not going to tell you that. You are the ones, we are the ones that have to find our way back to ancient Egypt. We have to do that on our own. Because we have no friends. Like Dr. John Henry Clark said, we as an African people do not have friends. We don't have no friends.
Right.
So the only friend that you have is when you look in the mirror.
That's true.
So what I'm saying, they're not going to tell you and wake you up because it's not to their best interest to do so.
No, if somebody trying to wake them up, they shoot them.
Once you wake up and realize that you are a descendant of the ancient Egyptians, white supremacy is over with. They don't want that to end.
Well, why would they want it to end if it helps them maintain their control?
That's what I'm saying. I said
exactly
the same thing. They have no interest in waking you up because it's not in their.
So how would most of us know unless we have an opportunity to really study on your own? You're not going to learn it in school. I didn't learn anything in my school.
You did, but you didn't know they was African. They talked about ancient Egypt at my school, but I didn't know they was African.
Well, because they acted like Egypt wasn't even part of Africa.
There you go. That's my point. That's my point.
So
you knew, but you didn't. Omission. They did it by
omission. Create a whole alternative reality, a different narrative, and that's the narrative they use to keep the people under control. And so we, as African people, we have to study on our own. It's not going to be in the books you have.
That's correct.
All the. So we have to look at people like Professor Walter and our own scholars to tell us the truth, because why would they ever?
Right.
That's what I would say. Why would they? Because let me ask you this: did some of the people get upset when they started looking at things and realizing that it was Africans? Did they get upset? Any of the people in the group get upset? I'm asking in Julie, Pearl too, because she had a big group with her.
Did who get upset?
Okay, some of the people in the group, they didn't get upset when they got mad or nothing, but most of the people that was in the group, that was a writer from Atlanta. He wrote for the Atlanta Times or something like that. Whatever that newspaper in Atlanta, he wrote for it. All of them was black. So when we had a lawyer there, who owned about 3 or 4 McDonald's in Detroit. And then we had different people. Well, a lot of them was professors, like teachers and different things. And some of the people, they even, this one woman, I remember her, she was a teacher, but she was an artist. She could draw really good. She started drawing all them palm trees and things. She started crying because she said she felt like she was back at home. Something about it. She said when she started crying. And different people had different reactions. I remember sitting at the table with one group, and one guy said that he said, I am very angry. I said, I don't know, why you angry? Why you expect the people that didn't tell you to tell you? I said, that makes no sense to me. Why you angry? I said, you know what? I told them right then and there. I said, I will start paying. What we need to do is start a fund for the kids that can't afford to come. And start sending them to Egypt to change who they are and their mindset. And I said, that's the difference that I think we should make. There's no point in being angry and expecting white folks to do what they did already to change it. And I said, it's never going to change if they have to change it.
Of course not. We have to change it for ourselves. We are all we got. That's what that is.
Well, see, we have to change. Of course, today is a good time to really tell the world who we are and who our ancestors are, because that's the missing link in this new movement and new awareness has come about in the United States of America due to Donald Trump's exposing America as to what it is. Okay. And with the killing of George Floyd, and et cetera, et cetera. So today, the world is listening. Their minds are open. Their ears are wide open. It's time for us, for descendants of ancient Egyptians, walk on the stage of the world and tell the world that our ancestors are the ancient Egyptians who brought civilization to all of humanity, and that we, Africans, who have been told and trained to believe that we were Negroes, Black, and African Americans, are indeed descendants of the civilized people who brought civilization to all of humanity. That's where we need, and the time is right to tell the world that. We have to get on the world stage and tell them that. You see? Because if we don't tell them, somebody else is going to tell them.
Well, we have to tell ourselves. I'll say amen to that. We're the first people on the planet.
No, you can't say that now. You can't say
that's not true?
No, we're the first civilized people on this planet. That's the first people. Because you can't prove that you're the first people, because you don't know how you got here as a human being. No human know how they got here as a human being. So if you don't know anything about how you got here as a human being through the 9 months of incubation in your mother's body, coming out at the end, a human being attached to your umbilical cord. So you don't know how.
But I think things will change. You're probably right about the first civilized people, but the thing with it is, I think it's going to be such a tremendous change coming that we don't know, because now we vibrating to the age of Aquarius, and all this underhanded stuff is going to come out, okay?
Well, along with that, underhanded stuff is part of...
I do believe that. All this underhanded mess is about to end.
All right, all of the underhanded mess is about to end. That's what I'm saying, the same thing. But with it being ended, we still have to find out who we are as an African people in this country. We're the only people, the 50 or more million Africans living in this country are the only people who have no land identity according to the names that we call ourselves. So it's time for us to step up to the world, on the world stage, and tell the world that we are descendants of ancient Egyptians, okay? Now, you can take the names that you use and call yourself like Black and Negro. See, Black and Negro is synonymous, one and the same.
Same word.
So you have to, but those names come from the Spanish. So therefore,
right.
we as an African people living in America today, we have to retroact backwards from America back to Spain, where when the Spanish people, during the time of the middle of the 11th century, asked now the ancient Egyptians to come into Spain to civilize them, to bring civilization to pagan Spain. So when that happened, you have 6 countries along the Mediterranean. You have Egypt, you have Libya, all this to the west, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Now what the Africans, the ancient Egyptians did, they used a country called Morocco because Morocco has an extension of land more so than the other 5 countries that I mentioned. And that extension is called the Strait of Gibraltar. And from that extension, the Africans coming from Egypt. See, Egypt is a country, yes, but also Egypt, during the time of antiquity, had a commonwealth with that connected these other countries such as Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. All of that part of the African ancient Egyptian commonwealth, okay, with Egypt being the capital. But anyway, when the Spanish asked ancient Egyptians to come into Spain to bring civilization to them, they used the country called Morocco because of the Strait of Gibraltar, the extra extended land that extends out into the Mediterranean. So once you get to the end of that strait, you have to take a boat and travel 8.9 miles to reach the shores of Spain. Once in Spain, the Spanish called our ancient Egyptian ancestors black or Moors. Black. Mm-hmm. Black means Negro. Negro means black. So one and the same. So let's go forward. In 1478, when the Spanish Inquisition came with the orders for Ferdinand and Isabella, ordering the Spanish and Roman Inquisition, they ran the Moors out of Spain. That was the reason for the Inquisition to be formed, to get rid of the Moors out of Spain. They want to erase any evidence that the Moors been there, and also the Moors was invited over into the Vatican. The Vatican, as we see it today, was built by the Moors. Okay, so this Inquisition got rid of the Moors out of Spain, out of the Vatican, and became a boatload of Moors came over here in this hemisphere with Christopher Columbus in 1492. So now from 1492 to the advent of slavery of 1619, which is 127 years, within that 127 years, the same Moors, same ancient Egyptians began to build a civilization over in this hemisphere, in the Americas. But you don't hear anything about that. They start our history as African people over in this hemisphere with the advent of slavery. You see? So now, and with the advent of slavery of 1619, they took the Moors and the Africans, other Africans who they put into slavery. They put them all under one umbrella and said, all of you are Negroes. So therefore, when they did that in 1619, they created a new African people without any land identity, without any culture or anything. So from 1619, we began to be Negroes, a new African people. And from that, we began to develop into the culture that you see that's being used today in this country. Okay? The development of a new Negro who created jazz music, blues, gospel, all your modern dances, and invented all kinds of inventions, such as the stoplight, such as the toilet, etc. I can go on and on. You see, such as the filter for the light bulb, and it goes on and on. So they created a new Negro, a new African we're Negro. Because you keep telling that you're black, that you're an African American. In fact, they created a museum in the Smithsonian Institute called the African American Museum of History and Culture. And when you go into that museum, the first exhibit you see is of slavery. So they're telling you, the whole world, that our history started with slavery. And so we had to educate and tell the world different. No. We are descendants of the greatest people that's ever walked this earth, who brought civilization to all of humanity. Our women today.
Walter.
Yes.
Walter, I don't want to cut you off, but could you tell about the how they educated the Europeans in the Dark Ages too? The Moors.
Oh yes.
They civilized them.
Oh yes, they brought civilization. The first Renaissance was in Spain in the middle of the 11th century, and then the same Africans during the time of the Renaissance, the main European Renaissance was the 15th and 16th century. Yeah, the first teachers over there were Africans. Okay, manual scholars came out of Northeast Africa, out of Constantinople. Today, Constantinople is known as Istanbul, Turkey. That's in Northeast Africa, known today as the Middle East, which is a Middle East name, is a political name. Yes, they came over from Northeast Africa into the Renaissance era of the 15th and 16th century and began to teach. They began to teach as the curious there in Florence and in Pharaoh, Italy. The word curia, C-U-R-I-A, means college over there. They only had a few students because they only allowed males to come in there to learn anything. And you had to have some type of statue to do that. People over there in that area who had statues, had money and influence, etc., sent their children to these curios to be taught by these Africans. Okay? Exactly. So it's another history out there that needs to be told. But the main thing is that we, today, as an African people, have to step up to the world stage and tell the world who we are, because they do not know who we are. Because we've been telling them that we are black, that we are Africans, Americans, that we are Negroes, etc., etc. So we have to tell them who we are. Very simple.
Well, I have a question. Why is it? Well, I guess it's kind of a rhetorical question. Some of us don't want to think that we're Africans because we have been removed for so long that we have forgotten, or it's been taken from us. Our identity has been stolen, and so unless we have an opportunity to, find out for ourselves, we don't know. And so some of us are stuck on, well, I have Native American ancestry. I have English people in my family. I got French blood, the slave blood. I got, the owner master kids and all that kind of stuff. And so we're thinking that, I'm not no African. I'm just American. And so when people try to tell us that our history begins here, some of us want to believe that. Although I don't think in our hearts we don't believe it, because we know it's the African part, the problem for us over here.
Yeah, because they made us. They tried to make us ashamed of being an African. As you got to think now. It wasn't just that we didn't. They made it. They put the shit on TV. They put stuff on TV that we running through the jungle. So people got shamed of it.
Exactly.
That's true.
That's why nobody wanted to admit they was African.
Correct. I understand. You and I are old enough to have went through that period. Okay? But that period is over with now. Okay?
I know some people right now will tell you, I am not no African.
Good. I understand that. But see, the information I'm talking about and we're talking about is not for those people whose mind has been colonized. Our information that we're disseminating that for the young people and the unborn Africans in this country. So all those who want to like I tell people, there's never been a man that walked earth in human form by the name of Jesus Christ. Come out of these churches, because the icon and the symbol of white supremacy is hanging on that cross. But now they said, no, they fight me because I said that, and that's true. Okay? So you have to. The young people are not going to churches anymore. That's the reason why a lot of churches are closing. So the message now is for the young people and the unborn. So therefore, these old people, like even Martin Luther King, said that he left nothing or lost nothing in Africa. He didn't want to identify with Africans himself. Understand that? So his mind has been colonized. So we're talking about a new African from America who the only descendants of the ancient Egyptians is right here in America. Because the other Africans living in the continent of Africa don't have to identify with ancient Egypt unless they want to, because in order to be an ancient Egyptian, the qualification is that you have to be African. You see? So therefore, if you're not an African, you're not an ancient Egyptian. Now, you can be an Egyptian like those white Arabs over there in Egypt because they live in Egypt. Okay? But to be an ancient Egyptian, you have to be African. So all those people who don't identify with the Africans and the ancient Egyptians, you have to let them alone, and they'll die out eventually. But you have to plant a new seed in the minds of the young people and for the unborn for the future. So
how do we do that, Professor? Given that we turned our children over to the public school system, they're not going to teach them.
No, you don't do that. By turning them over to the public school system, you're going to have to teach what we're talking about at home to prepare them. So when they go to school, they'll know what the teacher or what the curriculum is teaching them, whether it's a lie or the truth, and they can confront it. Okay? But you have to teach your children at home. Homeschool your children. Prepare their minds to be miseducated. That's a funny thing about the system that we live in. You have to be miseducated in order for you to get your job. If you're not miseducated, you won't. The higher degree.
You have to educate yourself, right? You have to educate yourself so that you can educate your children.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Walter, I'd like for you to kind of explain geographically about the Middle East here too, about how the Middle East is, and what part of Africa it come out of.
Well, what they call the Middle East, which is a political name, is applied to Northeast Africa. Northeast Africa is land, and you cannot take land and move it because you want to move it. But what you can do with that land is just change the name and identity of that land. But still, they say politically they call Northeast Africa the Middle East. Okay, that was done after World War I. World War I, 1914, 1918. So in 1920, the League of Nations was formed. The League of Nations today is the UN that sits in New York. The League of Nations at times, because the British had toppled the Germans, toppled the Ottoman Empire. And the League of Nations was formed in 1920, and they gave British government mandate over that whole entire area that's called the Middle East, except for Syria. Syria was mandated in 1922 to the French, and the French took Syria, which was a part of which was a part of Turkey rather, and they boarded it off and made Lebanon and Beirut of Syria. And then the rest of the land was mandated to the British. And the British in 1920, Arabia bordered Arabia off and made Iraq out of it. And from Iraq, they boarded Iraq off and made Kuwait off of it. Now, Kuwait is next to Iran. Iran is in Northeast Africa, part of Northeast Africa. You see, so in Northeast Africa, you got Lebanon to the very south. You got Arabia. You got Iraq. You got Iran. You got Kuwait. You got Turkey. And then in 1929, they took a land region in Northeast Africa, and they built a country called Jordan in 1929. See, Jordan, before it was developed into a country, was just strictly land, a region of land. So in 1929, the British built and developed the country that we know today as Jordan. Okay? So you have Jordan over there today, and you have Palestine over there today. Okay? Palestine consists of 10,434 square miles. Within that region of Palestine, you have the West Bank, you have Jordan, you have Lebanon, you have Syria, you have Beirut, and I don't identify Israel, because Israel is over there as a lie. It's over there under a lie coming from the Zionist community that put them over there. Taking the Bible stories in the Bible and trying to make it real and apply it to a people. They created a people, the Zionists did. That's the reason why you get a book called The Invention of the Jewish People by Salom Hossein, who teaches at the Tel Aviv University in the illegal state of Israel. He wrote this book about 15 years ago saying the invention of the Jewish people. All that was done by way of Zionism. So they have, I don't count them, because they're over there illegal. They're illegally over there. So that's part of, Emma, what is called the Middle East.
Yeah, also, that's why I wanted people to see how they had taken parts of Africa and split it up.
You did what now?
No, that's why I want you to explain it, because people then can see how the Middle East was part of Africa.
It is part of Africa, not was. It still is.
Well,
regardless of whether you change the name or not, that don't mean anything. You can't physically take the land out of where it's located and move it because you want to change the name.
Okay. But people don't associate it with the Africa.
No, you said what now?
They say the Middle East. They don't associate it with Africa. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
That's the point. You were right. Absolutely right. They don't. By changing that name to the Middle East, you think about it as the land of the Bible. That they made that the land of the Bible. You see? So that's the purpose of changing the name. It was trying to appease a Zionist group. The Zionists was created from the AIU, Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, in 1860. You see? So it goes into another history, and I don't want to get off into that right now because we're talking about ancient Egypt. Yeah, but I'm glad you asked that question.
Professor, I have another question.
Okay.
On the real practical level, do we need to have a Saturday school or some kind of school where, you say parents need to teach, but parents need to be educated too, so we know what to teach and how to teach. We need the kind of information that you're sharing. So what do we need to do? What kind of structure. Do we need a freedom school? Do we need a Saturday school where we can go and learn about ourselves and be educated enough to even to teach our children?
Okay, now let me tell you this. The first thing you need to do is close down all churches. Close them down. Okay. And you will keep the church building. Do not teach about no dead white man on the cross being the Savior and your God and so forth and so on. So when your Savior and your enslaver is your God and Savior, you're in trouble as a people. We are in trouble as a people. So we need to take down and close down all churches, but keep the building. Now, the minister of the church cannot be called reverend anymore because that associates that individual with Christianity or with the religion. He is now counselor, reverend. He is now counselor, doctor, whatever his name is. Okay? Take that church and turn it into a learning institution. Go in there and take down and back up a dumpster and take down all those Christian emblems hanging on the wall, stained glass windows with the angels, little white angels, and go on the outside of that church and take down the word church and all that kind of stuff. Take all that stuff down and turn it into a learning institution. And the same people who attended those churches now come back void of a religion. And because the church now is an institution of learning, you see? And you take those churches and turn them into an institution and then school our community in the African community in America the truth about our ancestors and their history and our history. That's how you do it.
Well, I start saying on a practical level, do you really think that the churches are going to close down, or are they just they're not going to close down automatically? I don't believe that's going to happen. Do you think that people are just going to stop coming and eventually it'll just die out, or what?
Well, that's what's happening now, Pearl. The churches, we had two ministers on this program about 3-4 years ago. We had Minister Brown and another woman who had a church in Texas that she heard some of my lectures over the internet, and it intrigued her enough to go and study a little further, and she decided that what she was teaching was not the truth. So she abruptly closed the churches down. She put a lock on the door, took down all the church signs on the outside of that church, went in and cleaned out that church, took out all the Christian literature out of that church, and she turned it into a learning institution.
Where was it?
That was in Lufkin, Texas.
Really?
Yeah. And then Minister Brown out of Brooklyn, New York, he had a church. He closed his church down in some of my lectures. Okay? And he began to think. And he called me, and we hooked up together, and I began to teach him a little further. So today, as I speak, churches are closing all over the world, not only in the African community. You take a lot of these Roman Catholic churches are closing because of lack of attendance. People are not going for this anymore. People are beginning to think because religion, especially Christianity, you don't have to think. Going to a church, all you have to do is go in there with your belief and your faith and what's being taught to you. You don't have to think because you just come in with your belief. Same thing with all religions. Islam, it's a belief. All religions are based off of belief. No human on earth was born with a religion. If you can really understand that you were not born with a religion. that you were given by your mother and father a gift of life. After the father's sperm impregnated your mother's egg and caused the 9 months of incubation for you to come into this world as a human being attached to her umbilical cord. The umbilical cord was cut, and the umbilical cord served 3 things for your development during the 9 months. It served you, gave you food, water, and air. So the gift that your mother and father gave you, who your mother and father are your creators. They created you. The gift that they gave you is life. It's still in your body as I speak to you at this very moment. You were given life. That's your indwelling, divine, spiritual birthright. It's life. Okay? But you were not given a religion, if you really understand that. That man created all religions for man. To do what? To control man's thinking and control man's actions. That's what religion is.
Don't forget about, through fear.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of
through fear.
Well, let me ask you another question. Did not the ancient people, the early Egyptians, have a cosmology? There was much emphasis on the afterlife. What was that about?
Well, that's I would say that's someone's imagination. That's someone who is creating something on their own that they can't prove. Okay? So
I'm talking about the ancient people now.
Well, no, I'm talking about they applying it to the ancient people, but did the ancient people say that? That's someone.
Well, of course, I haven't talked to them, but I've seen a lot of the literature and the.
Well, that's someone. Someone wrote the literature. Someone's theory that this happened over in ancient Egypt. That's their theory. See, a theory, you can take it 3 ways. You can believe the theory of an individual, or disbelieve the theory of an individual, or be neutral. That's like I have a chapter in my book, Historical Origin of Christianity, on page 146. It says why the metanatural hieroglyphics have never been deciphered. You see? So, but someone theory comes along and says the hieroglyphics have been deciphered. You see? So someone who call themselves been trained into the consciousness of Egypt, calling themselves Egyptologists, coming from this Western institution, put that into play. Say, well, they put different artifacts into their graves, and so they can have them after they die in the afterlife. But that's someone's opinion. See, unless the ancient Egyptians tell you that, then it's authentic. See? So that's someone's theory, that's someone's opinion. That's my answer to you, Pearl.
So is there such thing as spirituality?
What's that?
Is there such a thing as spirituality?
Of course. You were born with spirituality. That's what I was discussing telling you. When you came out of your mother's body, you had spirit inside of you. You still have spirit as I talk to you right at this very moment. That same spirit that was given to you from your mother and father having a sexual intercourse, and your father's sperm impregnated your mother's egg, thus causing 9 months of incubation to bring Pearl Howell into this world as a human being. That spirit is still inside of you.
I understand the process.
But you still have spirit. If you wouldn't have spirit, you would be talking to me. You'd be dead. Has nothing to do with religion. Religion is man-made. You were given everything that you would need coming out of your mother's body as a human being, spiritually and physically. There's an indwelling spirit that's inside of you at this very moment, and you have physical, everything that you physically need, such as your nose, your eyes, your ears, your feet, toes, arms, legs, fingers, etc., etc. You have all that. That's your physical part, and physical gift that makes up your humanity. So don't confuse that with religion. Religion is man-made, something that's unnatural. Everything that you was given coming out of your mother's womb is natural. You have spirituality. It's this very moment.
So like,
every human has spirituality.
Evolution?
What?
I'm doing. Sometimes I'm asking questions. I used to do a TV show, so sometimes I ask questions that I think might be other people's questions, not necessarily mine. Sometimes
it's okay. Ask the questions.
Mine.
Okay.
So I'm asking you. Are you now are you talking the theory of evolution?
What about the theory of evolution? That's a theory. There you go. You hit it right on the head. You said a theory of evolution.
Exactly.
Okay.
But Pharaoh, but you have but intuition and first mind, all that is part of, I think, your spirituality. But you've not been taught to trust it. Most people illogically themselves out of it, and then they'll say later, "Oh man, I wish I'd have followed my first mind." Well, your first mind is your spirit and your religion and all that. It ain't coming from outside of somebody, but you have not learned. Most of us have not you necessarily, but most of us have not learned to trust that inner thing. I'll call it inner mind.
Okay, y'all. Hold on one second. We got a caller with their hands raised. I'm gonna bring them in. Hold on. Area code 609. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, what's your question or comment for our guest. 609. You're on the air.
Yeah, Gary. My name is Gary Jolly, and I was listening since you started, and I just wanted to correct a couple of things that I heard as far as the 1619 date that most people are programmed to think that that's when European slavery started, but that's not true. In the United States, that is, they had that was the first British enslavement that took place of African people in North America. However, they had the Dutch, they came here in the mid or late 1500s, then they had the Spanish were the first ones really. They came around 1550 and they started this one city, Ponce de Leon in Florida, St. Augustine, Florida. That's when it was established in the 15th, around 1565, 1555. That's when they started coming here. First, they came up to North Carolina, and they attempted to set up a settlement up there, the Spanish. But the first slaves came out of Spain anyway. They went to Hispaniola around 1503. That was the later became Haiti or whatever. But the Europeans, the Spanish, they were the first ones, followed by the French. The French, they also, in the mid to later 1500 area period, that's when they started with their colonies in Canada and also in the southern part of the United States. They were setting up settlements, enslaved, and they brought slaves with them. They didn't even know how to get here. The first, and also something else that I heard, as far as the word Negro, see, the origin of that is the Jews, because the N-word, the N-word, nigger, that's an Ashkenazi Jewish word, like Schwarzenegger. That means the black plowman, the word nigger, it's spelled Neggar in German. That means the black plowman. And just like the word Negro, that means black in Spanish. And also Portuguese, that means black, the word Negro. just like you hear in the store, you go and you see Negro beans or whatever. That's like black beans. That's what they're talking about. Henry the Navigator, he's the first European that started working with the Moors, and he set up a school. They helped him to set up in a city called Sagres, Sagres, Portugal, at the bottom part of Portugal, because his father was a fisherman, and he learned a lot of stuff from the black people, from Moors. They were fishing and doing boating and stuff like that. So he set up a navigation school in 1418, and he started teaching Europeans how to navigate and start making maps. And some of the older maps, you can get them online, that he made up, and it shows large part of Western Africa, almost all of Western Africa. On that map is called Negro land, because that's who came up with the word Negro, the Spanish and the Portuguese. They the ones that first started applying that to Africa. They made old maps, which some of these maps are still available. You know,
who made the old maps? Who made the old maps?
Henry the Navigator. He had a navigation school.
What year was it?
1418. That's when it started. 1418, and then he died in 1460. But Henry the Navigator was born around 1394 in a city called Porto, Portugal. But he set up a navigator.
Was this guy that made the maps, was he an African?
Henry the Navigator was a white European Portuguese, and he also is famous for it because he had a lot. You know, he was dealing with a lot of the Moors, and they were teaching him about navigation. So he wound up setting up a school. But him and his family, they went over to a small island. It's called the Navigator. That's the first place that Europeans colonized of African territory. It's a small island off the coast, you know, Portugal. And I heard Dr. John Henry Clark once in a speech he was making. He said that he visited this place. Is no bigger than like Central Park, you know.
Okay, let me ask you this: when did slavery start in America? The America that we know today, the country that we call America. When did it start?
I guess I would say the first European enslavers were the Spanish.
No, I said when did slavery start in the United States of America?
The Spanish explorer Vasquez, you know, he came here, made an attempt to set up a settlement in South Carolina.
I said, when did slavery start in America?
When they set up the first settlement, I say around 1559. That's in St. Augustine, Florida. The Ponce de Leon. He had Africans on his ships. All these ships, when the Africans showed them how to get here, number one, and they were.
When did slavery start in America? I'm asking
1559, the first settlement the first colony that the oldest European colony in the continental United States was in St. Augustine, Florida, in the year 1559, and then they set up one in Pensacola in 1565. And so you know that the Europeans didn't know anything. They had African people doing all the work, and they were enslaving people at that point when they set up the first settlement.
Well, see, here's the thing I'm saying to you and about that. From 1492 until 1619 is 127 years. I said that.
Yeah, that's the British.
During that 127 years, these same Africans, these Africans that you're talking about, had began to bring civilization to this hemisphere. Okay, they were skilled men. That was coming out of Spain.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
Let me talk now. I'll let you talk.
Okay, I'm
Spain,
listening.
Portugal shares the same land space. But anyway,
right.
The 127 years between 1492 to 1619, Africans who were skilled men was being taken out of and run out of Spain, and they came by way of over in this hemisphere by way of being on a ship with Christopher Columbus. Okay, now while over here, they set up a third civilization. They began to build all over America and so forth and so on, and set in civilization. Now, the ones that was in southern states or the slave states got put into slavery, because during the time of slavery that we know of, all African people living in this country were not enslaved.
No, that
were free men,
true.
women.
That part is not true. The reason why that's not true, I can prove that that's not true because.
Wait now, just a moment. Wait, just a moment. Now you talking. Let me talk, okay?
All right, I'm listening.
Okay. Now,
but you just said something that's not true. I was going to tell you why though that's not true, but you don't want to.
All right, go ahead. Tell me why.
Okay, because the Dutch West Indian slave trading company that was primarily consisted of Jews, they came here also in the 1500s, late 1500s, and they set up. They come up the Hudson River at first, and they established the colony of New York, what they called New Amsterdam. That whole state of New York and parts of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, it was called New Amsterdam, and that's the primary business of the Dutch West Indian company was slave trading, and people owned shares. It was a company that was owned primarily by Jews. They set up the first settlements in New York. It was New Amsterdam. That was in the early 1600s, it was before the British came here anyway, in 1619 or whatever date that you were talking about. They came here first, and then they wound up in New York, and then later, around 1649, the British, Europeans, they were fighting each other, like the British were fighting the French, and the British were fighting the Dutch, and they took New York. The British sent like a fleet of ships over here.
You said it was 1640 something?
1649. That's when they took it.
Okay, well then,
the Dutch, but the Dutch had been here much earlier. They came here earlier.
What I'm saying, the official date for slavery in this country is 1619. That's the official
British
date.
Slavery, yeah, British. But the Dutch were slavers, man, before the British, and the Spanish were enslaving black people here before the British. 100 years before the British even knew what was going on. They were Johnny-come-latelys. The British, they came here later. That's like Middle America. When you look at Louisiana all the way up to Indiana and Chicago and all that was the French. They the ones that colonized that before. They would colonize that part of America, and then later it would be sold to the British, or the Americans, whoever, like Thomas Jefferson. He brought that Middle America, that part of America, like.
Well, this is
so
Thomas.
they were here.
Let me see. Okay, let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
I ask you, when did slavery start in America?
Well, I gave you several dates. I told you the first Spanish slave colony that was set up was in St. Augustine, Florida, in the year 1559. And then they set up one in 1565 in Pensacola, Florida. But they had came to South Carolina earlier than that and had tried to set up a colony, but they were unsuccessful. But however, the Dutch West Indian Slave Trading Company, they set up colonies in Amsterdam, New York, which is upstate New York, and then they set up colonies in the island of Manhattan, because the slaves that the Dutch had when they came here, they made the slaves build a wall in order to stand behind that wall because the Indians kept attacking them And that wall later became to be known as Wall Street.
That's
Today,
correct.
that's how Wall Street, because they had slaves to build a wall, and they put the slaves out front where they stand behind them and make them like face the enemy, and so because they kept getting attacked, and finally they negotiated a deal with the Indians and bought Manhattan or whatever later on, only to have the British take it away. The British, they sent troops, soldiers over here, and military, and they took and kicked their butts and took New York away. And that's why they changed it from New Amsterdam or it was called the New Netherlands. That's what it was called, the whole thing. And then they called New York was called New Amsterdam, the city of New York, And then the British, when they got it, they just named it after the Duke of York or something. They changed it to New York. That's how you get New York. But that was like way before the date that you're talking about. I mean, the British, when they took it, it was like 1649. But the bottom line, what I'm explaining to you, they started this slaving and stuff way before the 1619. So don't let nobody take something from your African people, or try to mitigate it or minimize. That's the word I want to say. Slavery, they've been doing it like in North America almost, not according to your date, 1619. That would be 401 years. I say closer to 500 years, about 500 years. That's how long they've been.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to dispute what you've been saying about the West Indian Trade Company and so forth and so on. That was created by a capitalist group known as Jews, so forth and so on. I'm not going to debate that, but listen to me. There's 127 years. What you said went on.
I didn't say 127. That's the number
just
came
a moment,
with,
just a moment.
I don't know.
I said from the time of Christopher Columbus coming over here.
Oh, yeah.
In 1492. Okay.
He didn't come here, did he? He was in the Caribbean.
Okay,
the white Christopher Columbus, right, he never even came to North America.
He wasn't here.
Cortez.
Listen, we're getting into
Central America.
All that, my brother, I'll let you talk. I'll let you talk.
Right. Okay, I'm listening.
Right. Okay, from 1492, when Christopher Columbus came over in this hemisphere.
But not North America, though. He never stepped foot in North America. Just remember that. Right?
Yes, I said the Americas.
The Western
Let me
Hemisphere.
finish. Are you going to let me finish, or are you going to keep interrupting me?
I'm listening, man. I'm listening.
How can you listen? You keep interrupting me.
Are you not?
Okay, all right.
Keep interrupting. So you let him talk. Then you correct it.
So now from 1492, coming to the and finding themselves in the Americas.
Okay.
They had a boatload of more skilled men who had brought civilization, built cities all through Spain, Cordova, Granada, Cadillac, Seville, etc., etc. Set up a government in Spain, introduced bathhouses over there and soap, and introduced literacy over there. But anyway, they came during the Spanish Inquisition as a cause of the Spanish Inquisition in 1478. And they were run out of Spain by this Inquisition of 1478. A group of Moors, African
right.
descendants of the ancient Egyptians, came over in this hemisphere of the Americas. And from 1492 to 1619 is a period of 127 years. During that 127 years, they began to set a form of civilization in the Americas. Now, in this hemisphere, which is North America. They were all down in Virginia, Maryland, different states like that. And they were not slaves then. They were not no slaves. Okay, they were not. What's that?
I got proof that I just told you the Dutch West Indian slave
because of what you just told me, they were not considered slaves. Slaves don't know how to build anything. Slaves have no skills. Just a slave.
People
they were not put into slavery until 1619 in this hemisphere that we call North America. Okay? Prior to that, they were free men until slavery came, and those same free men were caught in slave states. So therefore, they were put into slavery then. Okay? Now, all what you're saying about Indian, company, okay, yes, I agree with that. All what you said about Wall Street, I agree with that. Okay, so now
that was before
that's where I stand,
days, though.
And I stand on it firmly.
Okay, but that was before.
I think you got the dates wrong. When the Dutch didn't bring the slaves into America in the first place. They traded out of Ghana and all them other places. So what are you talking about? We talking about slavery in America.
No, what I'm talking about before the British came here, that the Dutch were bringing slaves in here, like they were bringing. They were actually
They wasn't bringing them here.
See, the first slaves.
I think you got that wrong.
I think what you mixing was skilled men. They didn't have no slavery at that time. And we're going to end this conversation near the end of our podcast. Okay, stop, young man. Hold it. I hear what you said, heard what you said. I agree with a lot of it. I really do. But now, everybody, all Africans that was brought over here, came over here and was brought over here, were not enslaved because they needed their skills to build this hemisphere of America and this northern hemisphere we call North America. They didn't put slaves to build no civilizations. Okay, so you call these Africans who were free men slavery or caught slaves during a certain time period. I disagree with that. So anyway, thanks for your call.
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is,
thanks for your call. Got to go now.
Yeah, all right. You don't want to hear the truth. You like some of these other.
You already told me your truth.
No, I didn't. You know, like you saying the 16.
Wait now, hold it. I gave you a platform. We gave you a platform to speak, and we listened to you. Okay, I agree with some of the things you said, but I do not agree with a lot of the things you said. How is that?
Like you said,
okay.
And you're.
So you don't agree with what I'm saying, and I don't agree with what you're saying.
I got documentation that backs it up, though, that they were selling people like the Dutch West Indian slave trading company.
Can I ask
like
brother
you said, they went to West
documents.
Indies. Most of them people went to the Caribbean.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay, then this is the last question because we got to go.
Go ahead.
Brother, where did you get your information from?
What?
As far as
research,
documents from the archives. You can go to the archives. In the archives, they got archives in the United States.
You can't believe
everything.
Who put that information in there? You can't believe everything unless you really test it. Did you go back and test what you read in the archives and found it to be true?
It's a bill of sale. That's what I'm talking about. And shares that were sold also, like when somebody bought stock into a company, like some of these Jews, they own like the majority of this. They were the majority shareholders in the Dutch West Indian slave trading company.
Hey, listen, we got to go now. Hold it, young man. Hold it. We got to go. I'm going to say this, and we're going to end the conversation. When Africans was brought over here from the Spanish and Roman Inquisition of the 1478 under Ferdinand Isabella, Africans that were brought over in this hemisphere were not slaves. They were skilled men. They knew how to
some of them,
build.
yes.
Just be quiet for a moment, please. They were skilled men who knew how to build and create a civilized atmosphere. Okay, they knew that. They were not put into slavery. They were put into slavery in 1619 when the beginning of the slave trade. Put into slavery in 1619, but prior to that, they were skilled men building this country that we know in North America as America and building all through the Americas. Okay? They were not considered slaves. They were skilled men. Okay? Because they came from a people who brought civilization to the world. So that's what I had to say. So anyway, thanks for your call, young man. Thank you.
All right. With Dr. Williams, I'm going to take a little quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Okay? We only have 14 minutes, so y'all hold on a moment.
Hey, everybody, this is Tarhaka again. I would like to introduce you to the Great Debate. We now have copies of the Great Debate. Dr. Walter Williams debates Prince Ezio Ben Israel of the Hebrew Israelites. Also, Reverend Henry Hardy of one of the most prominent churches in Chicago, Illinois. Chester Blair, a major attorney in Chicago. And Munir Muhammad of the Nation of Islam. The whole thing is hosted by W.L. Lillard. Dr. Walter Williams debate these men on their belief versus what he knows for a fact and he can prove. Get your copy by going to www.tarhakadebtelimination.org. That's tarhakadebtelimination.org, or you can go to newdataelimination.com. newdataelimination.com. Contact me for your copies. Okay? The Great Debate. You got any questions, just give me a shout. Peace.
Hi, Chantel again. If you have problems with mortgages or foreclosure, credit card debt, child support, student loan debt, etc., go to www.newdebtelimination.org. That's www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka. You don't have to be burdened with debt. Set yourself free today. www.newdebtelimination.org. Contact Tarhaka today. Peace.
Okay, we're back, everybody. Dr. Williams, we only have 12 minutes left, and I guess we can start making these closing remarks. And
okay.
So,
hello, I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead.
I was going to ask the ladies if they want to go first.
Go ahead, ladies. You want to go first?
Well, I think the Dutch was known to be in reference to their man. The Dutch, Dutch is European, ain't they? But anyway, they were working out of Ghana. I understood that, but they wasn't working to send those slaves directly to America in the sense of what he's talking about.
Right, but
they first went to the West Indies and all those places, but they was working out of Ghana. They the ones that look out there door of no return, as they called it.
Right. See, what I was trying to tell the young man, that the people brought over in this hemisphere, the Africans brought over in this hemisphere, were not slaves, because the Africans that was brought over in this hemisphere set up a civilization over in this hemisphere. So therefore, slaves don't have that type of knowledge. They were skilled men that came over here. They were not enslaved. They were later enslaved when slavery came about, officially, for this hemisphere that we call North America, which is 1619. See? So slaves did not set up civilization over here. only skilled men did that, who had the know-how to set up a civilization. Okay? So, in 1619, they wanted to eliminate the Moors further from history. They wanted to eliminate achievements, what they had done over here in this hemisphere, and they did that in 1619 when they put the Moors who civilized all of Americas and especially North America, and they put the other indigenous Africans that they brought over in this hemisphere under one umbrella. And under that one umbrella, they called them Negroes. And Negro in Spanish means black. But anyway, that's my argument to the young man, that all Africans that came over here prior to 1619, beginning with 1492, on the ship with Christopher Columbus, for 127 years, set civilization over in this hemisphere, the Americas, and in North America. And in 1619, they wanted to get rid of them. And they created a new African people by putting all Africans under one umbrella. Again, I said to the young man that all Africans during the time of slavery living in the United States of America were not slaves. If you see a movie called 12 Years a Slave, will tell you that. Okay? So that's my stand on it. So what you're saying is right, Emma.
I have a question. This is Pharaoh. When is the debate that you were advertising on your commercial when we went to break? Is that going to be a live debate? Is it a book? What is that?
It's a live debate on DVD, tape. I was on a local TV station in Chicago that the debate took place.
Okay, I would be interested in hearing that. I think I'm wondering, when you were speaking, where were the native people, the so-called Native Americans? Where were they? And when were they here? And
the Native Americans?
Yes.
The Native Americans? Is that what you're asking? Don't know. They were already here. They're indigenous here.
So they were already here when you're saying the people, the Africans came, and when the Europeans. Here's the other thing, isn't it true? I saw 12 Years a Slave, and I know that everybody that came, and I don't know all the dates and periods, but I know that every person that set foot, every African person that set foot on this land was not necessarily a slave, but also
right.
A lot of the people who were enslaved, we are not slaves. Some of us were enslaved, but many had skills. And
that's what I've been saying.
Many had already skills. So just the fact that they had skills doesn't mean that they weren't enslaved. You know. So I'm just it's a little confusing. I'm not clear about all the dates. I haven't done the research myself. I do know. I mean, I have read and heard about New York, and as the young man was speaking, what I've learned, looked at it, looked at evidence about that. It seems true. I mean, I've heard it from other scholars. So I would like the advantage of hearing the debate and what the various scholars are saying about it. You know, you guys.
All you have to do is go over to my website at New Data Elimination. Tarhaka.elimination.org, and just put in your name and email on a little message. Say you want to get a copy of the Great Debate, and that'll come to my email address, and I'll send you the means to get it. Just go over to New Data.
Listen, Pearl, to what he's saying, please. Go ahead, Tarhaka.
You could just go over to newdataelimination.org and just click on the little donate button, do a one-time donation of $29.95, and I'll send the download link straight to your email. All you got to do is download it, and you in there. Just watch it.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay,
We're down to
so
5 minutes. Anybody? Go ahead.
let me give my email address to people that wants to contact me. You can email me, Walter Williams, at ancientegyptian@msn.com. ancientegyptian@msn.com. When you email me, if you want to talk to me further, put your phone number there, and I'll call you back, and we can converse from that point. If you want to purchase my book, the name of the book is The Historical Origin of Christianity. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form or been a race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. That book has been out for 27 years, selling all over America, all in the Caribbean, all in the UK, and other English-speaking countries. My second book has been out for 17 years, going on 18 years, called Historical Origin of Islam. The thesis of that book is saying there's never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form by the name of Prophet Muhammad of Islamic tradition. So you can purchase those two books. Go to your local African bookstore or local bookstore in your community. Ask for the books. They don't have them, they order them. Or you can go to Amazon and order my books. Or you can contact the Underground Bookstore in Chicago, who is also a distributor of my books. And that phone number for the Underground Bookstore, Brother Yoel, is 773-768-8869. 773-768-8869. The Underground Bookstore, and you can purchase my book there. So, anyway, that's how you can contact me. That's how, the places where you can buy my books. Okay? So, Emma, you have anything to say in closing?
Not really. I think you covered all I could think of.
Okay. What about you, Pearl?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. What about you, Brother Tarhaka? This is your show.
Well, I tell you what, I really enjoyed the trip to Egypt. And next time we go over there, I'm going to have to make me a list of questions because I found out that you will learn much, much more when you are not with a group and you are able to live in an area and really get to know what's going on in a place. And because I found out I was living in another state, and the brothers, and I was explaining things to them, and they was all in the military, and they said, well, we were stationed there. And I said, well, such and such thing happened. Well, I didn't feel like that happened when I was there. I said, because you was limited. You was stuck in a situation where you could not get out. I'm telling you that I actually lived there and what I experienced when I lived there. So there's a difference in going somewhere and actually living in a place. That's why I was questioning the sister about the guy that she ran into, that she said she knew that was living there. I wanted her to tell me everything that he had to say about, because he actually lives there.
Right.
But
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was, there's a difference, brothers. I had a couple of brothers. They were both in the Army, and they had both been to Texas. And I said, well, when I was there, this, that, and the other happened, and this is what I felt about the people based on my experience when I was there. Well, we don't see it that way because, when we was there, it wasn't like none of that. It was, I said, okay. So I left it alone. And
right.
But nevertheless, I certainly appreciate y'all being here this evening. You've done a wonderful job, and I thoroughly enjoyed the broadcast. I really, really did. I sure did.
And let me add this. Thank you for the applause.
Go ahead. What you want to say?
You get applause for us?
I did.
Oh, is that what it was?
That's what it was. Anyway.
Okay.
How much we appreciate you guys. But anyway, Brother Tarhaka, now we were on with these two guests a month ago, right?
Yes, last month. Mm-hmm.
Okay, about a month ago.
On October the 25th.
Okay, that's a month ago, a month and 5 or 6 days ago. Now, how many views that people came and heard that broadcast with Pearl and Emma on?
Man, let me wait a minute. I don't have time to get over there right now, Dr. Williams, because we done ran out of time on the broadcast. But I tell you what, I'll give you the 411 tomorrow.
I know, but I want them to know that you all called.
What is
I think last time you told me
about a little over
700 and something.
Yeah.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Up on YouTube. I think that's the right amount. Don't quote me on that. I got to go and look at it so I can tell you the exact amount. But anyway, We're completely out of time, and I certainly appreciate y'all for being here. And I'm going to have to say y'all have a good night.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I hope y'all got something out of the broadcast. I've been your host, Tarhaka Amana El Bay, and we're going to close out. Y'all have a good night.